Hello, everybody. Happy Friday. I am Sarah. I am a traditional Usui Reiki master teacher, a holistic life coach, and a yoga teacher. And I am blessed and grateful and humble to lead this amazing community of women awakening together. For those of you who are new here, welcome, welcome, welcome. I hope you have found your tribe. Feel free to post your challenges and your triumphs and your questions and anything that you need help with. You can learn more about me on the announcements tab. There is lots of really good stuff inside this group. On the units tab, there's a whole course on how to create a sustainable mindfulness practice. On the topics, we have a couple of different things of lives with wisdom and insights and a little bit of my story. You could always check out my website and my 90-day awakening and empowerment program if you want to work directly with me. Every Friday, I come on live, sometimes by myself, sometimes with other practitioners, maybe nutritionists or holistic practitioners, energy healers, coaches, counselors who maybe want to share their wisdom with this group. So if you are a practitioner in the health and wellness field, feel free to reach out to me and I'll be glad to interview you and host you so that you can share your wisdom with this amazing group of women. Today I am going to be answering a few questions that came up. I put a post earlier this week asking for what do you want to know. So I've been practicing for 20 years. I've been teaching for 10. This is what I do, and I study it and I practice it and I love it with an incredible passion. And so I love giving new perspectives and new insights, especially when it comes to kind of controversial topics or difficult topics, because I always kind of take the high road, and I mean that like almost literally, like the spiritual higher vibration view of a lot of things. And so today when I sat down to see, okay, what is it that I want to talk about, there was two main questions that folks had asked. One was about relationships, and so I want to talk a little bit about that and the energy exchange of relationships with loved ones, with partners, with people at work and at home, and also with your kids. Another question that came up was about religion. And, you know, we live in a society that that's not something we really talk about, which is kind of very interesting because I think that is a lot of the reason why humans are a little bit lost nowadays and they've kind of lost their purpose. So I'll be talking a little bit about that, religion versus spirituality. And last but not least, what was the other thing? Oh, how could I forget? I wanted to give you 2 cents on how to deal with the political polarization that is happening right now. I don't think there's a right and a wrong. I look at everything without judgment. I think that everyone is entitled to their own opinion and their own views. And I think that there's a higher perspective than getting caught up in the drama and the back and forth. And so I want to invite you to do that. So those are the 3 things that I'm going to be talking about today. I'll try to just get down to the point. I'm kind of like a very direct person and I say things as they are. And I like to just keep it simple and not make it too complicated. So with all of that said, just so that you have an idea of what this live is going to be about, let's dive right in. So the first thing that came up was relationships. And someone asked, I think it might have been Trina, if she was the only one that doesn't feel that they need a significant other. And the answer is no, I don't need one either. I was married for 15 years. I choose very consciously to be on my own now so that I can work on my own stuff without projecting and without blaming and without relying on someone else to just be there, I guess, and that's something that is very interesting because a lot of the times people will ask me and they will think that I choose to do that because I have been traumatized or hurt or suffered. And listen, I'm not saying that the relationship I used to have was easy by any stretch of the imagination, but it's a little bit beyond that. It's got to do with the fact that once you really find what you're looking for from within, once you find true unconditional love and compassion for yourself and respect for yourself from within, you're no longer craving that from someone else. And so it doesn't mean that someone doesn't, if someone comes along, that would be wonderful, but they would have to be at a state of consciousness that's equal to mine. And sometimes that's a little bit hard to find. So as you go through this journey of awakening and you become more conscious and you become more functional, then you have to, you begin to look for someone who matches that. And so you're no longer plugging into dysfunctional patterns. A lot of the times the problem with relationships nowadays is when they start, we're looking for someone to make us happy. We're looking for someone to love us. Or we're looking to love someone and we're looking to make someone happy. And that is just not a healthy place to start or continue a relationship from, because you are the only one that can make yourself happy. And unless you actually are at a place of unconditional love and light for yourself, then you don't have it to give. I'm just very sorry to break it to you. You don't have it to give. So you cannot enter into a functional relationship with someone else because you don't have a functional relationship with you. And when you do have a functional relationship with you, then you don't necessarily need anyone else. It doesn't mean that you're not open to receiving and being in a relationship. It just means that your sense of self and happiness and identity doesn't depend on this relationship. So that's just a little bit of insight into partnerships. Someone else had asked, I think it was Vanessa, about children and how to let them go. And that is also a topic that I'm very familiar with because I've raised two children who are older adults. Well, not older adults. They're adults now. They're older now. And, when I had them, I was very young. So I made a lot of mistakes with them. And it turns out they're not the most functional human beings out there because I wasn't functional when I raised them. And sometimes you see them stumble and you see them make mistakes and you see them get into trouble and you are no longer in a position to help. And maybe you are, but maybe if you do help, you're actually not helping. And let me explain that. Humans are the only, or maybe one of the few species on Earth who gets attached to their children and to their family pod for like decades to the end. Like most other creatures in nature, at a certain point, the little ones become autonomous and they do their own thing and they make their own mistakes, and their parents let them do that because that is part of what they need to grow. And it is one of the most difficult things to actually do, to see one of your little ones stumbling and suffering and making mistakes, and you want to help them, you want to prevent them from suffering as much as maybe you have. And yet the right thing to do might be to let them learn the lesson that they need to learn at this time. Because when you think about it, it is much better for them to learn this lesson at 18, 21, 24 than it is to learn the lesson at 34 and 54, right? So as a parent, it takes a lot of courage to actually give them that free will unconditionally, without judgment, to do what feels right for them. That is actually unconditional love. To be there for them and respect the decisions and the choices that they make with true respect and without attachment. And one of the things that's difficult about it is maybe your sense of identity as a mother was attached to being the helper, to guiding, to being needed. And now as they grow up and they begin to stumble, and they might not even necessarily want to hear your opinions on whatever it is that they're experiencing, they don't need you anymore. And so then you feel a little bit lost and you've lost your role. And so that leaves a void in your heart, and you project it on them thinking that they need your help, when maybe they don't. Maybe they actually are just learning the lessons that they need to learn, and the best thing that you could do is take a little bit of a step back, hold sacred space, be there when they need you, but not try and correct and prevent them from learning those lessons, because that is just part of their journey. Even if it was something that maybe was rooted in one of your dysfunctional patterns. And that's one of the hardest things to accept and do. So if I see my kids repeating the same mistakes that I made, well, guess who taught them that? Well, I did. Right? And maybe I know better now because I'm older, but they don't, and they inherited that same energy pattern, and they have to now change it and do the work from within. All I can really do is lead by example and show them another way and get myself out. And a lot of the times that requires that we stop codepending them and we stop interacting in dysfunctional ways. So yes, it is extremely difficult, but it is doable and it is necessary. Okay, so that's a 2 cents on relationships. The next question that came up was about religion. And the question was, do you have to be religious to be spiritual? And if you are spiritual, does that mean that you're religious? And I like to take a little bit of a step back to answer that question and remember that the Creator, which we call God in a lot of our religions, is one. And all religions were created by humans in an attempt to explain and understand with our puny little primitive human minds what on earth are we doing here? You know, like, what is our purpose on earth? So the human mind created this concept of religion with the best intentions to connect to this divine force. And we created a lot of rituals around it, depending on what religion you're from. And with those rituals also came a lot of guidelines on proper behavior and what to do and what not to do. The thing is, through the centuries, religion has been a little bit misused for political power and for just, unfortunately, greed and fear. And we've literally fought wars as humans in the name of religion, right? And it's almost like the institutions have been a little bit polluted by the ignorance of the human mind. And so someone said to me one day, I think religion misses the point. And I'm like, no, it doesn't. The intention of religion is in the right place. Humans miss the point of religion because they look at it just from the external surface, as of the guidelines and the rules and the concepts, and they interpret it very literally. And then we lose perspective of this higher power that cannot be described, cannot be put into words, cannot really be explained. And every religion, all it is an attempt to explain that which cannot be named and cannot be understood and cannot be explained by our human mind. So, yes, you can be religious and believe in this higher power and believe that we are all one, not just with each other as human beings, regardless of what religion we believe in, but also with nature and with earth itself, right? So, you can be spiritual without being religious. And yes, you can be religious and then be spiritual. And as a matter of fact, I have so many students. I cannot tell you how many times I will get students who have come from very strict religions that have almost a little bit of an aversion and that they're full of doubt about their religion because deep inside, some of the concepts don't quite make sense, and yet they feel guilty if they even question some of these rules and concepts. And then when they begin to study with me and they begin to get this higher perspective and this bigger picture of things, everything that the religion was pointing to clicks. It clicks because now they're looking at it from a symbolic perspective instead of a literal perspective. And now they can actually go back to their religion with renewed faith. Why? Because their energy system, physically, mentally, emotionally, is now in a more aligned place to connect with this divine force, with this divine energy, with this prana, light, love, God, whatever you want to call it. Okay, and so because it is not something that can be explained, as they work with me and we align the physical body and we align the mental body and we align the energy body, our systems are like little antennas. And once we clean them up and we set them to the right frequency, then your mind can let go of all of these preconceived notions and fears and limited concepts that religion might have put in there, and you actually get it. You get it, and you can connect with this incredible. You literally feel it from your heart, just beaming unconditionally and so strongly. And once you feel that, then you go back to your religion. It's like, oh, Dad, that's what they were pointing at. That's what they meant. And you begin to understand the teachings of whatever religion you come from that symbolic place. And that is one of the most beautiful gifts that I actually have received through my journey, and one of the most beautiful gifts I feel that I give students. It's like, it's not that they need my permission, it's just that they now have permission to go back to, they give themselves permission to go back to their religion without the aversion, without the constraints, without the resentment, because they understand the point, without feeling so just, I don't know, a lot of religions put in a lot of guilt and a lot of shame and a lot of rules that make you feel bad about the things that you do and who you are. And I don't think that was their intention. Their intention was to point us to the right behaviors and the right patterns to move towards love and light and away from fear. Unfortunately, they were doing it from a place of fear. So instead of saying, okay, if you do this, your vibration will raise, they will say, if you do that, then you'll go to hell and your vibration will lower and you should be afraid. And so there's a lot of fear and there's a lot of guilt and there's a lot of shame because of the things that are oftentimes just human nature and collective consciousness driven patterns. And I'm not saying they're right, I'm just saying they're very difficult to change. And the guilt and the shame and the fear is not going to help you change them. The first thing that you need to do is connect with that energy of love and light and complete acceptance, and then love yourself enough to change these patterns to a positive place. And so when you begin to do that, because you now have more energy flowing through your system and more mental clarity flowing through your system, then religion begins to make a little bit more sense. And then the last thing that I want to talk about today is a hot topic. And I have stayed away from talking about this politics topic for a very long time because I just don't like to get in the middle because it's pointless. But I see that there's a need for a higher view of what's going on. And I am hoping that what I'm about to say kind of helps you to put things in perspective and take a step back and give you a clear idea as of what you can actually do here and now to help the situation. So the first thing that I want to say is that what we're going through, this polarization, this divide, this incredible like just back and forth of different opinions that seem so opposite, is part of human evolution. It's part of our consciousness that is evolving as a human race. And it's almost like it has to get to this point so that we can burst open and allow this new consciousness to come up to the surface. And so that would be the first thing that I want to say. So I'm not of one camp or of the other. I think that if you feel like you should vote, you should. And if you don't want to be a part of it, you don't have to. And if you believe in this way, then you vote that way. And if you believe in that way, you vote that way. Because at the end of the day, guys, I am sorry to tell you, it's absolutely irrelevant from a spiritual perspective. And a lot of the times, the reason that people get so caught up fighting against each other and hanging on to this camp or hanging on to that camp is because it gives them an excuse. I'm gonna say this, and some people might disagree and might not like it, but this is just the truth. It gives them an excuse to exercise their pain body. It gives them an excuse to not deal with the turmoil that they have inside, and instead they project it into one or the other from an external place. And that is so not helpful. Okay, and that is kind of where we are as a human society. This is what the problem is. So instead of going out and trying to fight and speak and march and do all of these crazy things externally, the best thing that you can really do that's actually productive is to go internally. If you feel so strongly about a certain camp or another, a certain way of thinking or another, man, that's a heck of a lot of energy to be projecting out. What if you were to take that focus and take it in and see where your inner conflict is? And see where maybe your mind and your spirit are not aligned, and what things in your life are you doing that you don't really want to be doing, and what things in your life are you not doing that you do want to be doing. So can you take a step back and instead of projecting out into this political situation, take it within and see what it is about you. What's that energy that makes you so mad or so angry or so upset or so determined? Man, if you could use that determination to awaken and improve spiritually, to invest time in yourself, to do some introspection, to do some journaling. Can you imagine if every human was taking all of this energy and instead of projecting it out into each other in a negative way, they were taking it in a place of responsibility and going within and actually seeing what it is about them that feels so strongly about X, Y, or Z? We would be so much better off. But for me to go out there, this is as far as I'm going out there on this live today. For me to go out there and try and preach that is counterproductive, right? Because all I can really do is do it for me, which is the reason that I haven't spoken about this topic, and I probably will never speak about it again. But I have had a lot of students who are really like struggling, and they're really like just frustrated about this or that, and I'm like, whoa, time out. And it gave me the insight that maybe it would be helpful to say at least a little bit, even if it's uncomfortable, and there might be people who don't agree with me on this, but it is so incredibly obvious to me that it has nothing to do with the external world. It has everything to do with the internal world. Now, that said, the other thing that we can do is realize that and hold that place, because I do believe that what I just said makes a lot of sense for those of us who are actually awake and can see it. And so if you are awake and if you are resonating with what I just said and you understand that this is the case, you have another task. Not only go within, and probably maybe a lot of you are already doing that and you're not projecting it out, and you're going in and you're using the turmoil that's coming from within and saying, what is it about me, instead of projecting it out into a political situation. But the other thing that you can do is hold space and really believe that every human on earth is capable of that level of consciousness and that level of awareness. So if we hold space, if we believe that everyone can awaken, if we hold that vision and we literally believe that they can do it, that allows that frequency of consciousness to download through our human system to those humans around us and the ones around them and the ones around them and the ones around them. And that is something that, even though it might seem passive, it's actually a very active and conscious choice that you can make to say, okay, not only am I going within and I can see clearly now that, it has nothing to do with the external situation, but let me hold the space where everybody else in both camps can do that as well. And if we hold that space and we send that vibration out into the universe and we literally believe in humanity with all of our faith and might, by doing that, we're allowing that frequency to download. And just by saying it and by thinking about it and by watching this live and keeping your mind plugged into prayer of asking that may all humans on earth awaken out of their delusion and stop polarizing and fighting with each other. If we hold that, like, we should call that the third political party. That's a good idea that I just had. We should, but no, I won't do it because it's not a thing that you can do. It's a thing that you have to be. So don't take that idea and run and go try and march and teach. It doesn't matter. People have to be ready. And when they're ready, they will awaken, and intuitively, just like you intuitively find your way to listening to this chat right now, one way or another, through this wonderful thing we call the internet, intuitively they will come. But we almost have to be like a little magnet. We have to stay still, and we have to hold the frequency, and we have to hold the vision, and we have to hold the belief that everybody can do it, and that's it. And you stay quiet in that center. The minute that you go out there marching and fighting for this and fighting for that, now you're just adding fuel to the fire and adding fuel to the delusion. If you realize that both camps are delusional, then you can take a step back and you can hold that frequency for humans on both sides to awaken so that we can come together. But it's not something that you really have to take action. You have to take action internally. Every time that your mind gets caught up going in one direction or another, or getting angry at one person or another, you gotta stop, like a samurai goes shoo. Come back, reconnect with the vision for yourself and for every human being around you. So yes, Sonia, yes, I think you're already a member. I think anybody who's already listening to this and resonates and can connect into that frequency, we don't even have to get together and talk about it because we're operating at a higher place. That's right from here. Some of you might even feel it as you listen, either in your third eye or in your heart, because that's how true it resonates. And it's not even something that we have to do externally. That's my point. It's something that we have to do internally. So that is my words of wisdom for today, Friday, the 23rd of October of this interesting 2020 year that we've had. Relationships, religion, and politics. Hot topics, but if you look at them from a higher perspective, it's really just all about the drama of being in this human world. And if you can navigate through them with wisdom and non-attachment and non-aversion and without fear and with unconditional love and compassion, and you can really connect to that energy of light and love, then there's nothing out there that we can't talk about in a spiritual way, because that's the whole point of being on earth, to awaken and improve spiritually and move away from fear and towards light and love. So every relationship that you enter, whatever religion you were born, and whatever's going out there politically, if you can look at it all just like a school, what can I learn? What can I improve? How do I stay connected to that energy of light and love? That is the whole point of the human drama. And so then you don't have to get caught up in it. You just have to learn from it, take a step back, and just listen to your heart and worry about yourself and your life. So we improve the entire situation one human at a time. There is just no other way. It starts with you, and when you begin to do it with you, you often begin because maybe you're suffering and you're tired and sick and tired of being stressed and overwhelmed, and maybe you're struggling in your relationships at work or at home or whatever, and that's why I started when I started my journey, because I was just lost and suffering and stuff. And now I get to help one human at the time to do the same and find that inner peace and find that higher perspective. So with all of that said, if what I'm saying resonates with you and you feel like I'm your teacher and I might be able to really help you ground this insight and this spiritual desire that you have, I'm very practical. I'm very real. I don't do like woo-woo spirituality. I'm like no nonsense, direct. I was interviewing a student yesterday and she says to me, I'm like, am I the right teacher for you? And she goes, I don't know, you're a little scary. And I'm like, yep, good. Because that's reality. It might be a little scary to step forward into a place of responsibility, because as another student recently said to me, it's like once you see it, you cannot unsee it, and you have to do something about it. And that's a big door to open, and this is why most humans don't want to do this work. They just want to go around blaming all their suffering into their relationships, their partners, their kids, their church, like they get mad at everything and everybody, whether it's politics, religions, or relationships, and they're not going to a place of what can I do and how did I participate into the creation of the situation. And if I created it, then I have to be able to find my way to my center, into a place of peace and light and love. So if you are there, if you are at a place where like, yes, I get it, I see it, I surrender, I'm gonna stop blaming everybody else, and you feel like you need help in order to just peel away these layers and to kind of just lift you up from where you are, just book a call with me. The link is on my website, sarahco.com. I have this wonderful 90-day program that it's truly something special. We combine creating the right practice for you, the right mindfulness practice for you, understanding, we read a couple of books, and I have some modules that you review, and holistic life coaching, because you can understand all you want and you can practice all you want, but if you don't know how to take it into action, into every word, every choice, everything that you do, every email that you write, every phone call that you make, every conversation that you have around you, then you're not really living practical spirituality. You might have it in your heart, but your head won't let you take it into practice and change the reality. And so you have these temporary glimpses and temporary experiences, but you can't sustain them because you're not practicing the principles and applying them to your life in a daily basis. So thank you so much for watching. I look forward to hearing from you. I'll be coming live as often as I can in this group. If you have any questions, any topics that you want to hear about, from, I don't know, from sex to money to anything else, there's always a spiritual perspective behind it all. Feel free to ask any questions, DM them to me, or put them on the post in the announcements that's asking for topics that you want to hear about, and I'll be glad to answer any questions you might have. Have a wonderful weekend, everybody. Thanks for watching. Namaste.